Hello, everybody. It's Marty the JavaScript Party. I'm a buddy, Rhett. Here you go, girlfriend. There's a nut for Rhett. Um, here we go. Okay, so basically, what we're trying to do is we have a very hierarchical system to describe ThreeJS videos. I mean videos. 3JS visualizations, and I discovered about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, on another project that I'm working on, that there's a concept called groups. And I think I was aware of the concept of groups. I just hadn't ever really used them. And then it became very obvious in my other project that groups have a very important meaning. I mean, they're super important and you really need to have that concept in there. And I kind of like the idea of just having, um, so anyways, I like the idea of always, at least, even if it's a single item child in a group, which I think the children are either lights or meshes. Maybe there's other things too. But even if it's just a single one, I would still rather it be in a group than not in a group, just because um, I think it's going to be easier to like reason about what's being animated and what's not being animated if you always like if you have the group and you're animating something called a group, that's a different thing than when you're animating a mesh or a light or something, right? So there is that. But it is very much like it's very, very difficult thing to do. It's commonly known as like one of the most challenging things I think in software development is like a refactor where you have the where you have like objects that get internally something has to be rewritten. And it's just because like these things just like it's very difficult to predict everything that might get broken. But to understand it, basically we see that we have a scene and then inside of it we have mesh IDs. But what I really want is a scene with group IDs in here and a group with the mesh IDs. Like that's how I want it to be. So anyways, so we kind of sort of organically built out everything from 1 to 7, all these different layers. And I believe even if you go and look at it and then you come back, you actually get more than 7. Now you have two more. I don't know what the two are. Oh no. Oh, interesting. So it skipped an ID. That definitely seems like something we're gonna have to figure out. So for some reason, we went from, oh, it's probably because actually, I think what happens is when you're in this view, there's something that exists that then gets destroyed when you're in this view. Like when it's no longer being vis viewed, I think. I don't know. It would be interesting to investigate that. But anyways, that is not what we're here to do. We're trying to get basically a group in between here. And I have done things like this before, and it's always a nightmare. It's kind of like one of those things where like first of all, like generally when it's been assigned to me, it's already been assigned to like 3 other people and they all tried and failed. And then it gets assigned to me and I figure it out, but I can't really explain it. That is like the worst when other people couldn't do it and then you do it, but you can't explain it. That's a place you do not want to be. Um, because they just have no choice but to believe that you're being sneaky and underhanded, and that's not good for trust. And probably on a software development team, trust is probably the most important thing that the members can have with each other. And man, you want to talk about a system that destroys all trust between teammates, it's Agile. Agile makes everyone, A, there's just some people that once you start getting points, they're just hardwired to become extraordinarily competitive. And then generally, when you're being ultra competitive, a lot of being successful when you're being ultra competitive is to take your competitors and make them weaker. As opposed to making yourself stronger, you could take them and make them weaker. That is not good for a software development team. Like, you want to set up a system where it's like we all get rewarded for succeeding, and this individual or that individual can help us succeed as a group so that we can get our reward. Not the way it is where it's like, oh, well, this guy got 8 points and that guy got 12 points and she got 9 points and this other person got, and then people start, you know, making excuses. And then making excuses is it takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of creativity. It saps you, right? So like making excuses and they don't, and it doesn't bring any value. Um, so anyways, now I'm trying to kind of go through and do this in like a slow motion sort of way so that I can kind of maybe next time I have to do this like at work or something, I can explain it, explain it really well. So that's the thing. Um, so I don't know what this is. Oh, that's just telling me if there's another repo. Um, but anyways, yeah. So we're going through these things. There's actually 12 changes. Everything seems to make sense to me. Um, so we have our group type script. I think yesterday we were going through the scene. Group service. I felt like there was a couple other. Yeah, so all we ever did was create the base group. Maybe we're calling this from somewhere. Maybe that's why no, because the group did show up. And this is absolutely the opposite of how I do things generally. Anyways, normally I like to write little bits of code and test as I go. This I'm actually building out the entire suite and I can't even test it. I can't even test it until I'm done. But okay, so now I think what I'm doing is I'm going through the mesh and I'm kind of going step by step through here. And I think the very first one is a create. And yesterday I came up with the idea of using a little catching chick emoticon for all creates. All right, so we'll definitely need a get group by ID. So we did, and this is like one of those things where like there was this movie called Groundhog Day where someone sort of relived the same day over and over again and they tried different things every day. This definitely has that feel because we created a get group by STID over in the groups um, service, the ThreeJS group service. Um, there we go. So get mesh by ID. All right, so one of these is wrong. What? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Get st group by ID. And this is our stid. And it's going to return an st group. And we're going to name it group. And then we're going to say that it's a group. And I'm going to yell at my dog real quick. Let me see. How do I? Yeah, we have the kind of craziest thing going on right now. Our neighbor paid for some kind of service to have a bunch of goats eat the front yard, and we have like kind of semi-finished front yards. Like it's a semi-wild where it's a bunch of ivy just growing and stuff, doing its thing, and then it's kind of surrounded on the outside by grass that I mow and stuff. And so we have these goats in the front yard that are just eating all the ivy and stuff like that in the front. And we're hoping that the ivy comes back stronger. Um, it's just like been growing sort of unchecked for like probably 40 years now. And so hoping these goats come in here, kind of chew it all up, and then they seem to be leaving the bottom of the ivy, so that's good. And then hopefully the ivy comes in really, really strong. Um, I'm a bit worried. I hope they don't damage the root system because that's what generally, my what I've noticed when trees fall here in Georgia, the ground gets too weak for them, and they tend to just fall over, and they don't like break or anything like that. The whole just tree just, but it's all those roots that keep it locked in. So we'll see how this works out. I kind of misunderstood what he was saying when he said, "Oh, I'm getting these goats by," but see, like 5 feet of their properties on our is abuts our property. So one of my other dogs is barking right now, and that is Snoopy, and he's very old. He is 16 years old. I think I should ST ID. Yeah, no, that's good. And then we're going to return the group. And again, here we are. We're not even testing this code. We're not even trying it out. That is very unusual. If you watch me, you'll see that I normally will write like 2, 3 lines of code, a function, something like that, and then I try it out. I set some expectations in my head and I try it out. So, and one thing now that I'm kind of thinking out loud, one thing why that's a benefit is it's this huge overwhelming change. It's very difficult to know everything that's supposed to work. Like I know that st group by ID is just supposed to return the group. It's fairly easy to test to make sure that it does what it's supposed to do. But this whole suite probably does thousands of things. So, all right. So we got our get group by ID, get st animation for st. Sure. I don't think we're going to use this, but I don't think it hurts. I think it's a good thing to have. I think it will be easier to do now than to try to come up to speed and figure out what's going on later. Now, if I was just going to write some code blindly to get the animations, then I guess it would be st group ID. And deep down inside that whole thing where we're or what was it? Oh, where we're creating something and we're not using it. I was just talking about it a second ago. Can't remember what it was, but like we're creating things and it's just like, oh, and just not even testing. Oh, that this thing is driving me nuts internally, right? Like right now, I have like another process that's running, just consuming energy and consuming uh on trying to figure out why it's skipping an ID. And man, that is definitely like a bad thing, in my opinion. I kind of brushed it off with sort of an excuse that something exists that doesn't exist anymore or something like that. I hope that's what it is, but I should have ended that with amen because that was a prayer, not a fact. Okay, so we're going to get our group, and it's going to be an st group, and we know we have a get group by ID, and I think it's probably st group. No, oh, it is a st group by ID, and then it's group. And these groups do have an array of animation IDs on them. And I just know that off the top of my head right now because that's what we're working on right now. In a week, I wouldn't. So if I chose not to write this function, which I think would be a very reasonable decision, not just to only write the function when I actually need it, but if I chose that, then next time when I need to write it, I'll have to come all the way up to speed again. And you don't have to come up to speed, right? You could just write it and just sort of feel your way through it, and that's full reasonable. But the problem is that you can only do that so within so many layers. Maybe 1 or 2 layers before everything starts to fall apart if you don't really understand what's going on. So, so here's our delete, and then I think here's where things get a little nasty because it's doing a lot more things than just than just like it's very external. So should delete is equal to fall. Who needs to be checked with before delete? Answer, the scene service. And that's still true. But it is going to be delete group for scene ID. And we're going to get a group ID. We're going to get a scene ID. So we do not want to delete this group if this group's in another scene. So we need to pull in the scene service. And in order to be able to do that, we need to get it from a deferred dependency class. The problem is the scene service injects this service, and the scene service also um, um, the scene service also returns, okay, so both of these services would need each other, and that is not, there's nothing wrong with that. It took me a long time because it's like, it's strange that um, see, there's the reason that I do things like this. Return should delete. Like, there's nothing wrong. And when I was going through this whole thing, initially in the initial build out, I was like going back and forth, like, should should is there some like Angular just doesn't support the idea of two singletons um it, requiring each other. They just don't. And because of that, um, because they don't allow that, you have to do like a workaround. And my workaround was this ST group deferred dependent, creating a class that after everything's built. So, okay, let's go back to the beginning. In the beginning, you create a service, and it's great. And then you tell it what other services that it needs in order to be able to execute. And then when you say, yes, service A needs service B, it will go and it'll check to see if there is a service B. If there is, it'll use it. But if there isn't, it'll create one and return it. Well, if in service B, you say, hey, I need service A, what you end up creating is a bug where before service A can be created, service B has to be created. Before service B can be created, service A has to be created, and it goes around in circles. So what you need to do is come up with a scheme so that, or one approach to be able to do this is, there's a lot of approaches, right? But my favorite approach is to say, hey, you can be created without that service, but later on I need to use that service. I do not need the group service. Like, the scene service really means nothing without group service, but group means something without the scene service. So I don't need the scene service to exist. I just need to have access to it. And that's what this deferred dependencies class concept does. But that's going to be a whole different thing. So I need to create a class for, I'm going to put a green checkbox. I've trained myself now, right, with these, like if it's a checkbox, if it's a green checkbox, it's something I need to do. And I've been using these in READMEs, but this is like a to-do, right, basically. And create the ST group deferred dependency class. And it's kind of crazy because like sometimes there'll be an issue like this that appears and no one has ever put words to it. And what happens is when someone does put words to it, when someone actually describes the actual problem, then other people start to repeat that. And then a lot of times it gets back to the people that could fix that in 2 seconds, right? Like there are people maybe Angular core contributors or Angular core team members that like would instantly, if you said, "Oh, okay, so this is why this doesn't happen. Um, this is why this happens," and then they can come up with um, a way. Like we could easily, like I think here would be my suggestion. Like I could see having like this where you go, we need the serve the service, right? And we could we could have something like this: private scene service, and that is a scene service. Oh, those are three. We need st. Okay. Anyways, we're looking at service. Okay, and let's say it's deferred, right? So we were doing scene service, right? Let's say we can do this. This isn't a big deal because these don't use each other, but it could be like inject and then service. I just called it service, and then comma, and then deferred equals true. True, like that, right? And then what would happen is we would be able to, and it's weird because is that legal? Injection options. Throws options. Oh, okay. Maybe you can do that. And optional. So this might actually be might work. I don't know. Maybe that would be great. That would be absolutely fantastic. All right. So inject has an options parameter. Okay, let's go ask ChatGPT. And who even knows? Okay, so in Angular 22, this would be another good example of like something where I makes me feel really good. Used to upset me, it used to freak me out, but now it makes me feel really good anytime I discover like a brand new thing and I'm moving forward with my skills. They provide an inject function. Now that function function except has two arguments, and one of the arguments is for options. In four short sentences, can you explain what the options are? Uh, okay, how it performs dependency injection. The common options are optional, which returns a null instead of throwing an error if the dependency is missing. Self, skip self, and host, which control how far Angular searches through the injector. These options let you fine tune. So, okay, so if so sometimes I want to load a dependency, but it is not critical to create the dependency before I sometimes I want to load a dependency, but it's not critical to create the dependency before the service is created. Basically a deferred dependency. Let's see. So I need it, but later, not on creation. Can that option be used for that to achieve this goal? My goal of a deferred dependency. Please answer in 2 short sentences. This is another thing. Like, I think I'm getting better at using getting what I want. No. Okay. That would have been nice. It would. A built-in lazy true or deferred would simplify scenarios and avoid creating dependencies that may never be used. That said, Angular's design assumes constructors should declare all their dependencies up front, so lazy creation is handled explicitly through inject or get dynamic imports or other lazy. Yeah. So that would have been nice. It would be nice if they add that. They probably will add that. When they do add that, this the way I'm doing these deferred dependencies will look like a crazy man did it. Because people, two things, the world's always changing, so solutions that you create today may not be relevant or necessary in the future. When you build solutions that are not relevant or necessary, if someone reads through the code and they see features that are not relevant or necessary, they just immediately assume you're insane. So they'll be like, "Oh, that guy's just a dinosaur" or whatever. So that's something that's important that you keep in mind. But anyway, so tomorrow I'm just going to start by doing this. Create the um, deferred dependency class. Gosh, I wish the checkbox was red, um, but right now it's going to be green. So I still have to do that. And I think this is a kind of so this means two things to me right now. And I'm just doing this stuff out loud, right? It means, one, it means that um, something I need to do. Two, it means that the, the comment shouldn't exist after, which probably means I should use something different because I leave those all the time. But I never leave it in code. So maybe that's just my like, see this, I probably, or this comment, get a list of scenes using the material, using the mesh ID. And if there's, so we're still going to want this one, but it's going to be the group ID other than the one passed to the scene, right? And so when we go to delete a mesh, we're going to want to look in all groups and see if there's a mesh that's being used in other groups, like that whole process. And this is like kind of a second lap around where I'm taking another look at this and I'm like, oh, okay, no, that works. I like that. I like how that works. So all that. And just to be very, very clear, if you're still with me at this point, like the only reason I ever started the whole inspiration of starting this was the book The Alchemist, because in The Alchemist it was very clear to me that like people's absolute desire to explain what alchemy was actually destroying the field, right? Like they were putting words to it. And once they put the words to it, they sort of chained it. They dropped it down. And then I don't think that the actual alchemist, the guy who was actually able to do alchemy, it didn't seem like he was able to create the words. And so they were never able to capture exactly what they do in a way that could be consumed by other human beings in the future. So now the entire um, discipline is just gone, right? And now it's like considered like a myth. Oh, that never happened, or they were alchemists, but they were all scammers, or something like that. I'm pretty sure that there was alchemists, and they were doing things, and their main goal was not to make gold into lead. It's just they thought that they might be able to, or lead into gold, but they thought they might be able to. Um, so like, but now we've been apparently like the science that I learned with elements and all that stuff. If you believe that, which I do, but I'm not like I don't know, um, but um, it wouldn't be possible to do that. But they were doing a lot of other stuff, like I think most, like I think they were creating rocks, like you would break down a rock one place, ship the sand over to another place, and then reconstitute the rock in the original place. Like that's my gut tells me that's what they were doing. Stuff like that, and a lot of the stuff they were doing worked, but it's all been lost now. Or I don't know, it's not commonly known. And I'm trying to capture how I code because I can code and I want to capture that. But in the meantime, as a side effect, I've been like actually improving my coding and my ability to communicate code. So, and then it's just like, well, while I'm here, why not get better at coding? Why just like capture what I do and then leave it at that. So this whole channel is kind of a big mess, but but it's been very, very good for me, and I hope it's helped other people. Um, but anyway, so tomorrow, yeah, we're gonna do create the ST group deferred dependency class, which I think is gonna Angular will come up with a way where you can kind of do the exact same thing that these dependency classes are doing. I guess I would like to look at that right now because I'm gonna be tired tomorrow morning. It's Monday morning. So mesh deferred dependency, all it does is I give it that and it goes to the injector and it returns that. And it does that when the real it it does that when this dependency class is created. But it's just a class. It's just a class. So that means I don't know when the I'm actually curious now when the ST mesh dependency class gets created. So we create the class right here, right? No, yeah, so we create the class. Yeah, so yeah, we create this. No, that is not where we create it. That's where we use it. Okay, so we actually create the class right here, but since it's not I guess because it's not a service, since it doesn't have this stuff up here, and I think we can just do this, but I can't really, yeah, I don't know. I think we can just change this to service, and but we do need to like import it. I don't really want to do that now because I want it to be like I want to like probably just go through and change all of these to services all in one commit, and make sure that it all the unit tests still pass and that all the end-to-end tests still pass. But anyway, so since it doesn't have one of these at ejectables or an at service in it, it doesn't actually like do this. And I kind of said that with authority, and I didn't mean to say it with authority. My belief is that because, oh no, okay, so yeah, no, the injector definitely exists. And then I guess we go and ask for from the injector to get the scene service. So when it gets created, it just creates a it just creates a link, a reference to the injector. And the service doesn't have to exist yet to get a reference to it. And then when we call get scene service, then only then does it attempt to get the service. So this is a lazy, what they would call lazy or deferred service creation. No, service retrieval. All we're doing is retrieving it. We're not creating it. So like I guess that's the thing is in now that I shorthand that over here when I do this, it just creates the class and gets a reference to the service, but it doesn't know anything about um, services in general. And the reason I put it would okay, I think it would be very reasonable to just have a deferred dependency class, and it just returns any dependency you want. You could even probably pass it in, get it to it's an argument where you pass in the token, they call it. So this thing right here, this is a token, and you could probably pass in the token that you want, and it could return it, I guess. And like I said, I'm actually processing this out loud. I, I don't know for sure, but I think that's what happens. This gets created, this injector gets created, and then nothing ever in this ever even implies that a service should be created. We're just saying this service has been created. So maybe they could do that because that would kind of stay in sync. Like if you just put like when you're trying to get a service like that is dependency, like it's going to be later, like maybe you could have like that or something, and that would tell it to don't create it. Just like there's a million ways that you could tell that, and I think they could implement it. And I'm sure maybe this definitely has that feel of like a holy war kind of issue where every time anyone talks about it, the whole thing gets tabled and then they go attempt again. But anyway, so this is where I want to start tomorrow is by creating a deferred dependency class. Happy coding, everybody. It's Sunday, July 12th. And that's about it. Happy coding. Bye.